Thom Hartmann here with you, and on the line with us, our old friend Mike Papantonio, America's lawyer. Mike, welcome back to the program. And
good to be here, Tom.
Yeah. So what? Give me a what are you guys up to right now? It seems to me that there's this this opioid epidemic that is just ravishing our country, and I know you guys have been working on some of these things as attorneys. What's the situation?
Yeah, well, we're one of the law firms that have been asked to be involved in the national litigation up in Cleveland, Ohio, where this is all. And my focus is on the distributors like McKesson, Amerisource, Cardinal. See, all the attention right now is on the manufacturers, Purdue, but it's really the distributors that were the real pill pushers. Their conduct is it's abhorrent. I mean, I've seen bad conduct over the years, but here they understood that they could make quick money by addicting a lot of people to the point now that we have, I think it's 170 people every day die in America because of addiction to opioids. And it wasn't an accident at all, Tom. As a matter of fact, when we start looking at the documents we're looking at right now, it was almost as if once they saw that the epidemic was in place, they started internalizing the epidemic into their business plan. In other words, they started seeing pill mills that were popping up, and they would wait a year, 2 years to close, to even participate in stopping their product from going to those pill mills. You know, there's situations where you would have 2 pharmacies that were no more than 3 blocks away, and they would sell 9 million pills to each one of those pharmacies, and the population in the town would be 400, 500 people. So that is a pretty typical kind of story. If you look at West Virginia alone, there's 1.8 million people. They sold 800 million pills in that state alone. And so they knew what they were doing. I mean, they were simply legitimized pill pushers. And now they're trying to blame it on, the doctors are responsible. The doctors weren't responsible. These companies phonied up literature to make the doctors, actually gave it to the doctors, pitched it to the doctors by their salespeople, telling those doctors that, this is a different kind of OxyContin, this is a different kind of opioid, and people won't become addicted to it. So it's an ugly story. The congressional hearings took place a couple of weeks ago. I actually testified in front of the staff. I had a meeting with the staff members of that committee before those hearings took place. And fortunately, there were a couple of representatives that did a very good job asking tough questions to these folks that believe they're bulletproof. You know, they had 4 or 5 CEOs there, in their suits, it's just another day of business, and they raised their hands and swore to tell the truth. I've read the congressional record. I've never seen so much perjury take place in one place.
That's remarkable.
Except tobacco. I saw the same thing happen with the tobacco wars.
Yeah. We're talking with Mike Papantonio, America's lawyer. He's the attorney. He's the host of Ring of Fire Radio. He is the host of his, I think it's America's Lawyers, the name of the TV show, right, on RTTV?
Yeah.
And author of the new legal thriller Law and Vengeance. It's a sequel to Law and Disorder. TROfire.com, the website. You can tweet him at Ring of Fire Radio. Pap, I was reading a kind of a history of this the other day, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection is that OxyContin was brought to market in 1998, and at that point in time, we really didn't have an opiate epidemic in this country. Over the next few years, these guys came up with Purdue Pharmaceuticals specifically, I guess it is, came up with a very specific way of getting these pills out there by marketing them directly to doctors. And as the evidence started coming in that addiction rates were skyrocketing, what happened?
Well, what happened was the distributors, again, yes, Purdue manufactured it. But the distributors are the ones that made billions of dollars. I mean, McKesson is worth $330 billion, Tom.
Who's McKesson?
A lot of that happened because of really because of their opioid business. And the same way with Cardinal. These are multi-billion-dollar businesses. So we focus on Purdue, but it's really the distributors that are most responsible. Look, Tom, they had salespeople on the ground. They had a salesperson would be on 3rd Street in Huntington, West Virginia. There would be 4 pill mills on streets that were no more than 3 or 4 miles from the distributor, from the salesperson. She would drive past those pill mills every day, and we have pictures of people standing outside the pill mills at 8 o'clock in the morning in their pajamas waiting to get pills. The distributor would also see pill mills being closed down by the feds and by the local police, so they knew exactly what was happening. They were the ones supplying the pill mills. So to say that, to have these CEOs appear in front of Congress and act like they're bulletproof and they've got clean hands was laughable. It was absolutely laughable. And so I'm the one that's, along with a great team of trial lawyers, that are going to be taking the depositions of these CEOs. And the deposition of these CEOs are going to look very different when we take their depositions than they did in these congressional hearings. I would recommend they lawyer up. Let me put it like that.
Yeah. When you say pill mills, are you talking about basically doctors' offices that are prescribing to people who are actually in pain, but they're prescribing, over-prescribing or prescribing medicines that are way too strong? Or are you talking about, I remember back when I was in high school, there was one doctor in town that everybody knew. If you went to and you said, I'm having a hard time staying awake in class, he'd write you a prescription for Dizoxin, which was that generation's version of methamphetamine. And all the girls I knew went to him for birth control pills, because this was back, in the 60s, and it was still, kind of sketchy. And he was just a corrupt doctor. I mean, are we talking about bad docs, or are we talking about criminal enterprises?
No, you're talking about criminal enterprises. We have them sued for RICO. I've sued these companies for RICO. They had what they call an opioid express, Tom, that operated all the way from Massachusetts to South Florida, and they understood that these distributors knew exactly how it would work. They would sell 6.5 million pills every year, say, for example, to a town where there were like 15,000 people. Well, they knew that the numbers were crazy. The numbers were staggering. I mean, 50, 60, 70 pills for every man, woman, child in town.
So it wasn't just the people in that town who were taking those pills.
No, they understood that it was they could see the chain. If you look at a map and you looked at where they dumped, they first of all, they would find areas where there's areas of despair, where people are jobless, times are hard. They would look at how many these towns that had anytime you see hospitals and a lot of pharmacies in a small town, there's probably economic problems in that area. They would actually go to those, because it's an economic indicator. So they would go to these areas where there's despair, coal mine areas, places where they used to have steel manufacturing, and that were closing down. They would center in those places. And there was actually an opioid express that operated all the way from New York all the way down the East Coast, and people would make those drives. And the industry knew what was going on. They had heard the term opioid express many, many times. And it was actually set up to where they could stop town to town, and these third parties would just buy pills from these doctors at these pill mills and just spread them out all over the country. They're nothing. It was no different than a cartel. I mean, they didn't look like Mexican cartel, but they were, and so they just had this in place, and that's part of what we're going to show in trial. I'll be trying this case next year, probably towards the end of next year.
The new American drug cartel. And before we wrap this up, we're talking with Mike Papantonio, America's lawyer. Where can people learn more about this on the internet?
Well, the best thing I could recommend is that they read a book called Dreamland. It is a brilliant book, Tom. It is an absolute brilliant book. But if you just want some basic details, I mean, it's literally all over the internet now after the congressional hearings, and where we're finding out, we're making comparisons to what these folks testified to and what was the truth. It's as I said, it's almost laughable.
Remarkable. Mike Papantonio, attorney, host of Ring of Fire Radio, his TV program, America's Lawyer, author of the new legal thriller, Law and Vengeance. His previous book is brilliant, too, Law and Disorder. They're both great reads. If you like, John Grisham-style novels, pick them up. TRO Fire, as in theringofire.com. TRO Fire. Thank you, Pat.